The crux of all these bills is that they're made up of words. As you know, words change definition over time, and people redefine things and they don't mean as much. If we start legislating words, criteria, religious words or things,
a cross on a church could be deemed something that's a symbol of hate. Why?
Because they feel like it is.
Yeah, because maybe it's got religious views that culture doesn't like. If that power gets unleashed where they have unfettered control of that, you won't be hearing conversations like this.
No, not at all.
Because we could be deemed a threat. Well, good. Let's redo that.
No, keep that one. I like it.
Well, we got to redo that so bad. We're going to keep going.
Keep it. I like it. Can we
Welcome everyone to Citizen. Don't know what happened there.
Ladies and gentlemen.
We got a lot to talk about today. I want to dive into C8, C9. You got a couple things you want to go through?
I want to talk about Canada Post a little bit. There's a lot of stuff happening with that. What was the other one?
Digital IDs. That's is happening in the UK.
Let's stay with those four because we take on too
topics.
Much.
We're going to dive into those four. Where do you want to start? Start with Canada Post.
I want to start with people hitting that subscribe button. Where is it?
Beauty. That's a good way to start.
It's down here. Subscribe is always right there, right?
Thank you guys for hanging with us. Let us know if you watched also a couple of our last videos. We talked about potential Alberta Constitution with Bruce Party last week, which was great.
We're looking to do a show with the opposite perspective of that.
We are finding that. I actually had
I'd like to do that.
A little text conversation back and forth with the CEO of Alberta Prosperity Project, just saying, hey, what are your most up-to-date stats that you have in terms of support? So
I want to hit play on this video to start it off with Canada Post. Actually, before we do that,
psych. Wow.
Gotcha. How much money do you think Canada Post is losing a day right now?
A day?
A day.
Gosh, I don't even think I have an idea.
A day.
97 billion.
You always do that, man. David's the worst.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
Look at me. Show me for a second. This is what David always does. If you ask David, how much do you think that costs? And he knows you're trying to get a reaction. He'll go so far over the deep end that he just ruins your bang.
It's like stealing the punchline.
Totally.
Really. I'm going to guess $1 million a day.
Let's hit play on this video.
That's my actual guess.
Across Canada, postal workers have hit the picket lines. The union representing 55,000 employees launched a nationwide strike over the changes Ottawa's making to the way Canada Post does business. Canada Post is losing about $10 million a day.
A day? Can you even
a day?
A day. A day.
I thought $1 million was going to be right on. Or high even.
What are we talking about? Imagine if they swung the budget $80 million this year. That's only 8 days worth.
Yeah. We got to cut costs.
What?
We got to find.
We did a show a while ago talking about Crown Corps, and we were it was a good show. You guys should go watch it. Linked at the end of the show. But this is next level. $10 million a day loss. What in the world is going on? We were
3.6 billion annually.
3.6 billion a year.
My goodness.
Good Lord. And we're compensating for that. We're paying for all that. That's Crown Corp. We're all throwing our tax dollars there. Anyway.
Okay, so what's happening with that? That's come up in the last week.
Yeah, and then
so what's Government of Canada doing? What's Prime Minister Carney talking about?
Today said that they're not going to bail them out.
Okay.
Which is a big deal. It's a Crown Corp. They always get bailed out, typically. And so this is going to force it to sink or swim. And so there's a lot of rumors going around. One of the rumors that they sent, and this is total rumor. Maybe I shouldn't even say it.
Say it. I like rumors.
What was the name of the company? There's rumors going around that they're saying that
BP,
that Brookfield might that they might let this company fail, and then Brookfield might pick it up.
Predictions that is going to pave the way. Who knows about that?
Which is if that happens, man.
Okay, so if Canada Post does not get bailed out, then is it actually? I'm a little behind on this. What are the other options in terms of mail support? I know obviously you've got private companies that do a lot of deliveries and packaging.
It sounds like when the video I just hit play on, they kind of walk it through a little bit, is that they've got 45 days to come up with a plan on how to flip this on its head and get it cash positive. I have no idea how
they're going to fail at that.
They're for sure.
There's no chance.
They're for sure going to fail.
You're in a company that is billions of dollars every single year, and you've never had to worry about performance. ever. Because you're backed by the government.
For sure.
And
I wish I could go into the
your
comments.
Jobs.
CBC turns off the comments, on the videos. Because like that's where the magic happens. That's where people go, this is stupid, blah, blah, but they turn them off.
Yeah.
My gosh, it must be nice to be subsidized so much.
That's crazy. We got to keep up on that. I am glad you brought it up because I was not really following that one, to be honest.
Isn't that nuts, though? Okay. That's about all I know about it. So I'm sure.
That's so good. It's a good place to start. It's a big deal, though.
It is. It's
Crown
huge.
Corps are starting to crack.
Do you know how much money? Imagine if you redeployed that money.
So what's Carney's reasoning?
10%.
Why?
Just give 10% to Calgary, 10% to Winnipeg. Give 20% to Winnipeg, and they'll fix their roads. That'd be amazing, eh?
Like 2 roads. How many bottles?
10%.
Until next winter hits.
10% is 360 million.
Yeah.
Come on. You can fix the whole city's roads for that, couldn't you?
No idea.
I don't know. 720 million has got to do the trick.
We'll open up a construction.
Let's do 30%.
Yeah.
That's $1 billion.
You think Prime Minister Carney's listening to this, getting his ideas from citizens?
So much money.
What is Carney saying about it, though?
Okay, let's find out.
Did he say why they're not going to bail it out this time? Is it... what's the actual reason? So, okay, while you're looking up that, should we move on to the
C8 and 9? Or do you want to go to...
I want to... Well, they're all three together. Bill C8, Bill C9, and the announcement from British Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Regarding mandatory digital IDs. The reason why I want to talk about that's getting a lot of attention from some really very important thinkers in our world, but there is a tie to Canada, and specifically, I'll have to try finding the clip, but Prime Minister Mark Carney was asked, and he did not give... Do you have it here?
I have Carney talking about his stance with Canada Post.
Okay, before we get to my point, may as well play this too.
Okay, so what were we saying, though, so we don't forget about it?
Is that Carney did not give a simple answer. He was asked about, could digital Canada ID move that direction, and he went on for 2 minutes and didn't really say anything regarding
that then.
That's important, especially in the wake of C8 and C9.
Other steps will need to be taken.
Defending big cuts coming to a public service, sweeping reforms that have triggered nationwide demonstrations.
A company is not viable, any organization not viable, if it's losing $10 million a day.
A 158-year-old institution and tens of thousands of workers facing an uncertain future.
Why the union is reacting the way they are is the only way you get those kinds of savings is through downsizing the workforce.
This is the second Canada Post strike in less than a year, halting deliveries across the country. Last time around, it lasted more than a month, ending only after Ottawa intervened. But some labor experts say this latest disruption could drag on.
They may think that letting a strike play out is the best way to sort of beat the union into submission and for Canada Post management to get what it wants.
Others.
Interesting. So they're striking as well for wage increases, right?
Yeah, which I don't know who's advising them on that.
The unions.
No, but it just goes to show you how ignorant and out of touch they are. It's going, if there was a lawyer present, they would have been, hey guys, you shouldn't do this. Like if we're losing this much, like there should have been some sort of advisement of
guaranteed the unions have lawyers that are idiots.
It's got to be.
This is a fundamental difference in how you think, though, when it comes to capitalism versus socialism, right?
Like
this is where it fails. You're losing $10 million a day.
Someone should have just said, "Hey guys, we need to ride under the radar for a little while."
Yeah. This is not the time to strike.
Yeah,
right now.
Let's just lay low.
We got to clean up our numbers a little bit here before we present it to the entire country.
We need more now. It's like, what do you think
lordy.
you're going to get out of that? It's just getting so.
Well, kudos to Mark Carney on making that statement because I 100% agree with him 100%. On that. It's unfortunate our last prime minister couldn't see that through all those issues in the last however many. But Crown Corps, it is a big conversation to continue to have
for sure
about the weight that it puts on the Canadian citizen individually and the amount of money and waste that goes towards it. It is waste, man. I know there's services, don't get me wrong, but...
I jokingly said to a friend today, saying, do you want to start a mail delivery service company?
You should.
Legit, though. Like, that's what's going to happen.
There'll be 10 or 20 great private mail delivery services that rise up, take its place, and do well. Great.
Totally. 100%.
Earn it.
And I guarantee you, there's going to be government subsidies to try to expedite or speed that up or expand for sure, there will be. Like that.
There'll be a bit of a service transition, but you know what?
For sure.
The Canada Post has dwindled so much in what it's actually been doing. You look at the rise of Amazon and FedEx and all these other companies. There is obviously standard mail packaging and parcels they do, but there's options. Free markets, man.
There's going to be a Saturday Night Live joke made out of this. I promise you. When he says with a straight face, when a company is losing $10 million, I can't even say it. $10 million. You think he's going to say a year?
Okay, we got to move on. She's like, yeah, I feel like we could talk this for 30 minutes just laughing at it.
You feel like he's going to say a year, but he goes a day. You're like, what?
Oh
anyway,
gosh, that's crazy.
Prediction.
All right, we're going to move
Saturday Night Live.
C8, C9 digital IDs is they're all interconnected. We've talked about in the past what formerly was Bill C63, which is now Bill C9. We'll maybe get updates as to where they're at. Bill C8, in my opinion, is walking lock and step with Bill C9. The idea, and I'll say it this way, is that what we have to be concerned about as citizens there's a lot we have to be concerned about, but what we specifically is, we have to ask the question, is Canada quietly wiring out like a digital control grid for population, for citizens, for what we can say, what we can do, for content, but also C8 on the distribution system within our country. Because essentially what Bill C8 is doing, it's handing Ottawa power, and I'm going to use this word and I'll justify in just a second, secret power over the pipelines that carry out our voices across the country. Internet, telecommunication.
Yeah, pipelines is a good way to look at it because they are carrying two different things. And so I put into chat saying, are they related? And if not, what's their differences? And so this is the difference. Bill C8, but they're both happening at the same time. Bill C8 is titled An Act Respecting Cybersecurity, Amending the Telecommunications Act and Making Consequential Amendments to Other Acts. Bill C9 is multiple or have been multiple bills, kind of combined.
Was 63
and
now C9.
Proposes the one you asked, Bill C9. Here it is. An act to amend the criminal code, which is hate propaganda, hate crime, and access to religious or cultural places. So do you see how they kind of go together, though?
Well, essentially, we're trying to do analogies here. C8 is the pipes in which the things flow, and Bill C8 is an attempt to have control and secret control over that. Bill C9 is actually the content that flows in those pipes.
Yes.
Great. And that is, and the police even more in depth what's flowing through the pipes.
It's a great way to put it.
So that's what Bill, and remember what we've talked about in the past. When you read the title of what each bill is, the words are always good and they sound good. You have to do the work to actually read through the bills. What does section 1, 2, 3, 15, 16 say? Because that's where you actually get the guts of what is actually being said. I want to read some of the guts of Bill C8 because just so you get an understanding of what's going on. And there's a couple of guys have covered this online, but 15.2, number 1, if there are reasons, so it's called Security of Canadian Telecommunications System, the Minister's Order. If there are reasonable grounds to believe that it is necessary to secure the Canadian telecommunications system against any threat, including that of interference, manipulation, disruption, or degradation, the minister may, by order and after consultation with the Minister of Public Safety and emergency preparedness with the persons the minister considered appropriate, so whoever they feel appropriate, they can prohibit telecommunications service providers from providing any service to any specific person. So you're a provider, you're no longer allowed to provide internet service, cable service, whatever other telecommunications services to said specific person, company, etc., including a telecommunications service provider. B, and direct a telecommunications service to provide to suspending providing for a specified period any service to any specific person. So suspension or canceling. That's not it. I want to move on.
You know who we need to get on?
Who's that?
Elon Musk. I'd love to. I know.
You know a way around. I'm glad you brought that up.
I know it would be almost impossible to get him on, but if there's some way, because
let's get the citizens to work. Tag.
I would love to bounce this off of him. This is why I think he's doing satellite outside of borders.
That's a way around it.
Like
Starlink.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind, where I'm like, fine, then I'll get off the entire grid on any because it's not that I'm planning to break these laws or rules. It's the fact that they seemingly are creating the boundaries and the criteria and the authority that they want to create to kind of seem to go like that's what it looks like.
It's a building of a control
Crazy,
grid.
man.
That's the thing I'm concerned about. Is that, and this goes back to our episode we talked about last week with Bruce Party about the way the Canadian, the way that our Constitution is framed out, is government has power except, and this vague descriptions, which.
Yeah.
Again, Bruce was saying problem with these, they're written in words,
yes, exactly.
which can be interpreted, especially when you have vague words like these. Yeah. So I just read B. I'm going to read 2. The provision of the order must in scope and substance be reasonable in relation to the gravity of the threat. Who's determining the threat?
I know.
And who's in control? That's a threat to us. Well, it's actually not a threat. That's just freedom of speech. No, you're actually threatening what we think is right as a government. See, it's in beauty's in the eye of the beholder, including that of interference, manipulation, disruption. Okay, that's not the worst part, guys. Number 3, under Section 15 of C8, the order may also include a provision prohibiting the disclosure of its existence or some or all of its contents by any person. That's why I use the word secret to start, because it includes a provision prohibiting the disclosure of its own existence. So let's say someone like Melanie Joly in that position decides, you know what? Citizen is a threat against what we are trying to do as a Canadian government, and thus you are a threat to Canadian citizens and this country. They can now go towards the providers of such services. You are no longer allowed to provide them the pipelines to get their messaging out, because they send out threatening messages. And you know what? We're actually not going to disclose this because we don't deem it necessary to disclose it to the public.
That's what's so scary.
That's an example of what could happen.
Yeah, because it's guilty until proven innocent. It's flipping the justice system on its head, and that is so dangerous because there's no due process whatsoever. Goodness gracious!
And then get this.
Wow,
you guys want more vagueness? 15.4. The minister may require any person to provide to the minister or any person designated, so they can choose, by the minister within any time and subject to any conditions that the minister may specify. Any information that the minister believes on reasonable grounds is relevant for the purpose of making or amending or revoking, and goes on to say underneath that the whole act. That is wide open power for the minister's interpretation. It's basically...
and what worries me so much about this is just as you were alluding to what Bruce had said, the crux of all these bills is that they're made up of words, and words can, so, as you know, words change definition over time, and people redefine things and they don't mean as much. Like even just being a dad of a 9-year-old, like there's things my son says where I'm like, what'd you just say? Like you're like, words are just like, they change with culture. And so what worries me is this whole hate speech wording. That's why, like, you see a lot of guys on YouTube going, hate speech doesn't exist, prove me wrong. And they go to these debates because we need to believe that. We need to believe that hate speech isn't a thing, and that freedom of speech is actually the thing. That even if you say something that we say is hateful, that's in your freedom of speech, and that should be allowed. Because if we start legislating words, criteria, religious words or things, now
symbols,
it's like
we'll get to what C9 is talking about.
C9 talks about symbols.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what symbol? Are you going to talk about this symbol? You can't see it. A cross? Is that going to be considered to be religious and hateful according to someone's definition? Where does it stop?
Well,
it's such a
culture is downstream from cult, and that shifts based on the times from time period to time period. There's different things that are trending, that are popular, that are heightened, that we can look at to determine, or what society determines is good or bad or hateful or not hateful. And if you go down this route, it might get to the point where at an extreme version, it's all of a sudden now, like you're saying, this is your point earlier, a cross on a church could be deemed something that's a symbol of hate. Why? Whatever reason you want to put.
Because they feel like it is.
Yeah, because maybe it's got religious views that culture doesn't like or whatever. Anyways, we'll move to C9 in a second. But C8, essentially C8 is really important to understand if you're tracking so far. There's this idea of security, sure, But again, I don't like putting more power and control in the hands of the government. But what essentially you're doing is it's giving the government untethered control of what security is. It also distinguishes themselves, the government, from being anti-security or weak while attacking overreach. That's the crazy thing about this. It also positions themselves as the defenders of transparency in the wake of actually not being transparent. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Like they're putting themselves in the position of the white hats. We're the one that are protecting the citizens. We're protecting freedom of speech. We're controlling. We don't want our children to be exposed and all those types of things. But really what you're doing is they're taking more. And this is the concern I have, and I'm not being extreme by saying this. It is a continual layering effect, a stacking of control. And this is why we'll eventually get to digital IDs and what the implications could be. But that's kind of where I'm at with C8. It's really important to understand that's in its second reading right now. Its first reading was in June. It's going through the House right now as it's being debated and talked about. So don't just pay attention. Make a post about it. Talk about it. Ask your neighbors, your family about it, because that's a serious step forward in a direction I don't think we want to go.
For sure. So let me just read some of the details for C9. Again, this is an act to amend the criminal code, brackets, hate propaganda, hate crime, access to religious or cultural places. It proposes to repeal the requirement of the Attorney General's consent for existing hate propaganda offenses, to create a new offense for willfully promoting hatred via symbols, or create a hate crime offense when other crimes are motivated by hatred. Like it's hilarious how they're defining things by repetitive words, and criminalize, intimidate, or any obstruction of access to religious or cultural places. Allies and critics see this as expanding the government's ability to act more aggressively on hate speech, but also raising concerns about free speech and the freedom and right to protest. And like what I just threw into chat saying, okay, well then what concerns do we have in regards to government overreach if these things get pushed forward? And right out of the gates, it goes charter tension and right violation of Section 8, the right to be secure against unreasonable search or seizure. Charter tension and Section 2B, freedom of thought or belief, opinion, and expression. Charter Section 7, life, liberty, security of the person. In Section 11, legal rights. And it just goes on and on. It's like violation. So it's pretty overreaching.
Yeah, hugely. Wild. There's this idea that also it's not just on how they interpret, but also it's going to be putting a pressure on providers of such platforms where content can be expressed, like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. These spots have become the public the public forums where we have debates, but now there's more and more pressure, even on smaller ones, from government to not just censor. Look at the algorithm. We should do a whole show on the algorithms and how they control what we see. But going through that might compel them to moderate or censor more and more to avoid potential penalties. We've also seen, we're currently walking through it, how some massive tech companies like, I don't care what you do, Canadian government, we're pulling our service and we've been blocked. Or so that's through C63. Is it C63? I think so.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So
and VPNs and satellite networks, and there's even phones that are satellite phones that are being sold right now to essentially bypass these types of restrictions that are put in by government borders. Like it's wild. People are finding their ways around because they are craving freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of ideas. We have to be able to wrestle with those. Yep. Is this digital ID?
Yeah, I want to show digital ID because this stacks to it.
We absolutely need to cover this.
Really important because C8, C9, you guys, I know you're following us in terms of the building of potential control mechanisms for citizens on freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and also services now provided to you. This is what's happening in the UK. This is very recent from the last 3 days, so take a look.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Mandatory, that's crazy.
Because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, they want us to tackle the issues that they see around them. And of course, the truth is,
do you see how he framed that?
We won't solve our problems if we don't also take on the root causes, looking upstream to tackle poverty, conflict.
So, just a couple things. the root causes is uncontrolled immigration that the UK has had. You talk to people who have actually lived and built in the British society in that area, is that they don't recognize their own country. There's whole sections in London that have Sharia law. My point in saying that is the reason why I'm going there is because Keir Starmer has said this is going to help them with their issue that they have with illegal workers in the country. So he's been unable to answer how it's going to curb that.
Exactly.
Because as an employer, so employers will have to see, well, that's not going to work. Like,
yeah, and I can't get myself past this yet. If anyone ever frames anything that way, like for example, what he just did there, if you don't agree with me, you are not pragmatic, forward-thinking, kind, loving person, and you must agree with my opinion. And if you're not, you are that. It's like, if anyone ever says anything like that to you, that it should be the biggest warning, red light,
totally.
like just warning. That is manipulation, deception. It's brutal. If someone's trying to do that, especially if they're in a position of power, it's just it's an awful thing to do. I would argue it means their argument or their statement they're about to say is weak, and they're trying to intimidate you into believing what they are saying.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this comes down to the control. And why does it? What does it mean for Canada? Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney was asked recently, "Will this be in Canada?" And he had, or I would say, a real tough time answering that question when it could have been a very simple no. This will never happen in Canada. But it's about a 2-minute answer that didn't really.
And the reason they're saying
much.
that is they're saying that he's got a buddy.
Well, they're connections
buddies,
too,
right?
but also pile this on the C8 and C9.
100%.
Layering of control mechanisms that where government has got more and more power. Digital ideas, and it's not just David thinking this. There was a ton of people that have come out against it. Chamath, who's a tech investor, billionaire, brilliant thinker, host of the largest podcast in the world, All In, like, you know these guys, Chamath. He came in and said, this is an extremely slippery slope for the UK. Konstantin Kisin, who's a great thinker, has come out and said, digital ID has nothing to do with immigration. Just think critically for 3 seconds. Britain currently has up to 1 million illegal immigrants. Many, if not most, are known to the authorities, and yet they're still here. The reason that they're here is not that we can't identify them. That's what the digital ID does. It helps you identify. It's because we won't deport them even when we know who they are. This is not about immigration. It's about building a control infrastructure. It's why Blair tried and failed to push it through 20 years ago. And he goes, imagine a government. This is what the UK government does. Imagine a government which routinely arrests people for jokes, for memes, also locking people in their homes during COVID, and think that half the country is far right, what they could do with these types of tools at their disposal. So they're going that
and
route.
You're not exaggerating. For certain jokes and memes, what he means by that, because the first time you said that, I didn't know what you meant.
Yeah.
For posting jokes, for posting memes, deemed as hateful and arresting them in their homes. So I don't think a lot of people are actually like watching what's happening in the UK. It is not freedom. No. If they do post certain things that the government deems, they're being yanked out of their houses. Yeah. Again, it's crazy.
100% they were.
It's
and
crazy.
This is the stacking effect I've been talking about. The danger is not just in any one specific law, you guys, because we've seen these little things creep up. It's when they start creeping up and now there's multiple layers. It's how they compound on each other. And now imagine if it could be proposed in Canada, which is not a far reach, is that now your identity is tied to a system. Like Keir Starmer said, you cannot work in the UK unless you have a digital ID. That goes for citizens too. It goes for anyone who's in the UK. If that comes to Canada and your identity is tied to a system, and now Bill C8, where now you have access, or now the government has unilateral access to decline you from having services from telecommunications, internet, all that kind of stuff. And it's now dependent on your compliance. So add that to the hate speech. You're not complying with what we've laid out needs to be, which is open for interpretation and vague at best. Well, you know what? We also have your digital ID, and
yeah, because that's what worries me too. Is that like even the outlaw of older vehicles? I think like when you play out these ultimate controls of the highest degree, is what's that saying? Power corrupts and absolute power absolutely corrupts. Is when people are given these types of powers, they use them for bad things. Like they overuse them. And the thing that worries me about my vehicles point is like I have a 2022 Toyota Tundra, and it tracks everything. I turned everything off, but I guarantee you it still tracks it. But when I first had them all on, it shows me every trip I make, GPS, it shows the location, average speed. It would rate my braking power, how hard I braked, and give me a driving score on my app, on my car. And I'm going, what's that going to be used for? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I was like, oh, this is way too much. You know where I'm going, how I'm doing it. And I didn't even tell you that I wanted you to do that. It just worries me about all these digital monitoring of everything.
So if you committed a crime, could
for sure
our government, whoever it would be, police,
tap
access
into
it from Toyota
I'm sure
and
they
get
could.
that information?
I'm sure they could.
So there's access that way to work together.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know what Toyota's stance is.
But even imagine insurance.
Sure, yeah.
Like what I mean is I have a good driving record and stuff, and all of a sudden, let's say I borrow you my vehicle. Hey, and you run to Save on Foods to grab something for the studio, and you happen to rip real quick on that trip. All of a sudden, my rate score goes. I was like, what happened? My insurance price. My insurance price just went up. Like that's the end game.
Because your risk.
That's the end game of
has gone higher.
All monitoring.
Okay, but I was going to play. So you committed a crime, but let's say it's not a crime. Let's say you're running for prime minister, and they want to try to. Can the government extract that information to use against you? My point is saying it's a very slippery. So if they can do it for certain stances, and you have broad narratives that's being written in C8 and C9, and it's subject to the eye of the government, what is a threat and what's not a threat. My point is that when they are so vague, you're now overriding and not just challenging the charter rights that we have. You're full on blowing through it with a bulldozer. And we don't have the protections like the U.S. Constitution does when it comes to freedom of speech and your identity. But one of the things we have to keep in order here is that your identity belongs to you. Consent, privacy are not mandatory. That has to be the default. It's not mandatory. It's up to you. So you buying a Toyota, you're choosing, Toyota, it's fine if you track my location.
Because I bought their product.
Understandable on that. But when it comes like what the UK is doing of mandatory, and then layer on these other areas we're seeing, and that comes down to the fundamental difference of what you're seeing with this movement in Alberta. In terms of true freedom, potential independence, and that growing sentiment. This all has a part to play. Anyways, those things I think we really need to pay attention to right now.
Those are some really, really big things. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know in your comments what you disagree, what's good, what's bad, what we missed. Because this is like, we all have to get deep into this. I think I wrote on my iPad here, what can we do? I don't have the hard-hitting facts to that. What I would love to do, like I do know of some people who have petitions going around for Bill C9 that it needs to be amended, it needs to be rewritten. And I think people can search those up. Type in C8, C9 petition, and you can search those up right now. I think we need to put pressure. That's the whole idea of the citizens' responsibility in the process of bills being made, holding our MPs accountable. We have to put pressure, call them, talk with them. And
calling them, putting pressure, or even encouraging the ones that are standing up against them. Yep. That helps a lot. Like Michelle Rempel-Garner, MP, she's the one who's warned against government-managed surveillance state and discussing online safety bills and digital controls. She's signaling that there is a growing concern of an identity systems that can track and control. So like there are MPs who are going to speak out about this, but us as citizens, the conversation is so vital to keep having. And man, what we said earlier about C8 and C9, if that power gets unleashed where they have unfettered control of that, you won't be hearing conversations like this.
No, not at all.
Because we could be deemed a threat. Anyways, crazy. Let us know your thoughts. Thanks for watching.
Show goes on.
Show goes on.